gentlemen, it's your favorite bearded man, the one, the only, Bobby! Air horns, champagne, bottles popping, B.O.B. is in the building, and it feels good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my new show. It's The Bearded Man, because I am the bearded man. It makes so much sense. Oh my God. This is probably going to be the greatest branded podcast in all the game. So excited to have you guys and gals here today. So excited to create this platform to share pretty much the thoughts that are brewing through my head. When I was hosting Purpose in the Youth, I started to funnel out every so often. I was doing like these solo podcasts, something would spark an inspiration or something that was happening in my life. And so I'd just be like, screw it, I'm going to record a solo podcast, kind of put it out there. And I took a lot of that inspiration from Gary Vee, just watching the way he moved with his content. And so probably, I think, mid-2018, all through 2019, I just started dropping content every so often of just me, my voice. And I was always surprised by like the amount of reaction I was getting, because Purpose in the Youth was so much built on, guests and hearing their stories. And so then I realized like, oh, wow, people want to hear me talk. Like, that's awesome. Because so much of those episodes were me interviewing people, and it was just about what they had to say in their story, and it was so beautiful. But also recognizing like people cared. People wanted to know what the bearded man had to say, all this bearded wisdom. And so as we'll get into today's podcast, being episode 1, just get started, I'll dive into kind of how this all came about. And yeah, so I'm excited. So thank you for tuning in right now. We're still here in the Bedrudio cooking up. This is where I pretty much have been podcasting since I moved out here to LA in September of 2017. I've had an incredible journey. There's been so much content that has been cooked up in this Bedrudio, and we're actually moving midway through January, so pretty much the new year. And I don't think the timing could have been better. So I'm excited with all that. So let's dial it back. I got a bunch of notes. This is very interesting because usually the notes is me interviewing people, but now it's, some things I want to talk to y'all about. This podcast is going to get interesting. So welcome to It's the Bearded Man. That's it. That's the title. It's the Bearded Man with your favorite bearded man, the world's favorite bearded man, Bobby. Makes sense. For those who don't know, my name is Bobby Hobart, born Robert John Hobart. Don't be weird and, Google that name and try to figure out a lot of things about me you don't need to know. Anyway, some know me as Bobby, the world's favorite bearded man, the world's used to be favorite Uber driver, but no more, no more. B.O.B., Bob, Bobby, Bob Daddy, Robert, Bobbert, Robert Hobbert, as the teachers would say on my first day of school growing up, and I would dread that. First day of school, every single time. Do we have a Robert Hobbert here? I'm just like, second grade. It was like a strike to my heart. I was just like, they're not saying my name right. It's not Robert Hobbert, it's Robert Hobart. And then I have to connect them, say, I'd be that guy. I'd have to correct them on my name. And then I'd have to be like, also, could you call me Bobby? I wasn't Bobby yet. Could you call me Bobby as well? That's 2 things you screwed up on. And they eventually got it. I'm originally from Chicopee, Massachusetts, now living in Los Angeles since September of 2017. Dream come true for me, always wanting to live in LA, and I absolutely love living out here. It's a beautiful place, especially this time of year in December, where everybody back on the East Coast where I'm from is freezing. And it's nice knowing there's sunshine out there every single day, and it keeps such a clear headspace. But I absolutely love living in LA. I'm the host of Purpose in the Youth podcast, which recently went on pause back in October after, actually, it was crazy timing. I was already planning to take a pause on the podcast to figure out some things with my life. And at the same time of me literally planning out weeks ahead of time, this will be the last podcast episode. It ended up being the last episode. And then the following week, I started a new job, which we'll get into. So I am the host of Purpose in the Youth. Right now, that is on pause. There's, chance that I could come back at some point. But wanting to have that represent what it is. That's why this podcast is beginning, so I could still share my voice with the world, but also recognize like that project was built on interviewing guests. And so I don't want to intermix different stories and different content when that's what that started for. So that'll be there and it'll forever be there. And I'm sure we'll get back to it at some point, or maybe we never will. Who knows? So we're just going to keep rolling. I've recently retired my Uber career after completing 19,002 rides, ladies and gentlemen. 19,002 rides. Back in 2018, Uber legit sent me a sticker saying, Robert Hobart, you are a top 2% Uber driver in the world. Here's your sticker. Throw it in your car. Tell everybody about it. And we did it. Top 2% in the world. Started in college as a part-time gig. Fast forward, graduated college. Needed a way to fund all this content that I was starting to create. And so I started driving Uber, and one thing led to another. I did it for 19,002 rides. I'll probably end up doing a podcast on just those stories alone, so don't worry. That's like, even though that is not part of my life anymore, which feels so crazy to say because ever since I graduated in college, that's literally been my life. It still will forever be part of my story. And I still can't wait for the day. First magazine cover. Started from the Uber. Now he's here. Wow. Anybody steals that from me, I'm going to be pissed. That's going to be dope. Actually, as my boy Tim LaRue recently chimed in, he said, Jersey in the rafters. And you better believe that Uber jersey is up there, baby. Oh, I'm cooked. I'm currently a content producer for Liquid IV, which I started back in October of this year. That's been such an incredible opportunity. Somebody that I've had met through podcasting in August of 2018, Brandon Cohen, the absolute savage, incredible, talented, smart man that he is. I interviewed him for episode 99 of Purpose in the Youth podcast, August 2018. Fast forward, we stay in touch over some time. And then I ended up landing this job with Liquid IV, which I will get into later today some more. But that has been such an incredible opportunity, and yeah, it's been awesome. Liquid IV is a great company. You should check them out. Water additive, you throw it into your water. I should be, product placing right now. Of course, I didn't think that through. But it's an incredible product, incredible story, incredible business, incredible team. So thankful to be part of them, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And now, I don't know what I just said. We're not cutting that out. And now, as of today, I am the creator and host of It's the Bearded Man podcast, where you're tuning in right now, whether visually listening, whether you're walking your dog, walking on the treadmill, maybe cooking up in the kitchen, maybe cooking up in the content kitchen, traveling on an airplane. I don't know where in the world you are right now, but know that is so dope that you're listening right now, listening or watching. So thank you so much for being part of the Bearded Man journey, because it's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite bearded man. I wish I was getting paid to say that, but I am not. So why start It's the Bearded Man podcast? As I kind of already slightly gave you a little taste earlier about 5 minutes ago. It's simple. I am the bearded man, right? That's part of my branding. That's so much grown to be my branding. Your favorite bearded man. It's the bearded man. People sometimes will be like, yo, what's good, bearded man? Like, they don't even know me for my name. They just know me as the bearded man, which I think is so cool. And I don't think I'm that cool. I love the branding of it. It just naturally grew part of it. My beard grew, and my mother's not too happy. I'm sorry, Mom. I know you want me to get rid of it, but it's here for good, especially with this new podcast now. It's the bearded man. If I shave it, what am I going to do? It's the non-bearded man. What do I look like? Phony? Gotta love water. Anyway, this is gonna be an interesting podcast. Let's keep it moving. So, Purpose in the Youth built me as a content creator. That's what gave me the permission to create, right? Like, if I didn't start Purpose in the Youth, there's no way I'd be doing this right now. I wouldn't have the job that I have. I wouldn't have met so many incredibly talented people. It was the starting engine for me to learn how to create. I didn't know how to make YouTube videos. I didn't know how to podcast. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't even know how to edit images. I didn't know how to do anything, but I started Purpose in the Youth, and through it, I would have a problem, or I need to learn how to do something. So I'd go out and figure out. And now so much of that knowledge that I've learned since starting it in August of 2016 has helped me become the creator that I am and gave me so much confidence to share my voice and shoot a podcast on my bed Rudio right now. Like, I wasn't doing this 3 years ago. So Purpose in Youth gave me that permission to learn how to create, gave me that voice in the world. And so, as I've already talked about, just wanting to still share my voice, I created this platform. I have no idea what this is going to become. Okay, so I think I've already been brewing this idea for like the last 2 months of I need to find my voice. I need to figure out what's the next type of content I want to create. And I still have like these bigger scale type pieces that I want to continue to create. But I really was like, what on a smaller scale, like something like this where I could just fire up the mic, fire up the camera and talk about whatever I want. It's almost like therapy. Like I need, this is my therapy. I just get to spit these words into the world and whoever listens great. And so I needed to create a platform. And so I'm just starting it, right? Like, once again, that's the name of this episode. Just get started. I have no idea where this is going to turn into. I'm just going to start it. I'm just going to start sharing my voice and we're going to see where it goes. I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to tell you it's going to be a weekly podcast. It's a monthly podcast every Monday with Bob A. None of that's happening. I learned from the past. That was great. It kind of built me structure and it forced me to stay disciplined on a weekly podcast. But this whole next chapter of my life is all about creating what I want to create and not beating myself up if I don't create. If I want to take 2 weeks off, if I want to just like chill, like cool, there's no deadlines. That's my new thing with all the content you're going to see rolling out for me from start of 2020 and for the whole year at least. There's not going to be this like schedule. I'm just going to create as much as I create, but I'm not going to beat myself up if I don't create for X amount of time. And so to not let myself feel down and out or like I'm letting other people down and saying like podcast every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every month. I don't even want to say that. I just want to create when I want to create. And truthfully, it's going to be, I hope it's going to be often. But I just know that I have no idea where this is going to go. I have absolutely no idea. Big question people that have listened to Purpose in Youth are probably asking, are you going to have guests? Probably. I don't know. Flip a coin. I don't know. I'm just going to start this thing and roll with it and see where it goes. And so, yeah, I'm excited. This is just going to be me sharing my journey, my lessons, my milestones, everything in between as we head into a brand new year, 2020. The one thing through content, I've just become so confident and so willing to be vulnerable that I just share it all, right? Like, of course, I got the high moments, the dope shit moments, like, yeah, we out here living good. But then I've also shared stuff that's personal and things that have been tough in my life, right? And so that's what this is going to become. It's going to become an outlet for me to just express what's going on in my life. Hopefully a lot of highs, maybe sometimes some lows, maybe some bumps. But I just want to document it all, share it all. And so if people listen and like it, great. If they don't, awesome. Keep it moving. But if you stick around, I'd be pumped. Come on. I'm the Bearded Man, and it's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite Bob Bay. Yes. Somebody start a counter and see how many times I say that this episode. It's probably going to be through the roof, but it's okay. So I'm sure many of you are so curious to hear, what am I excited about for 2020? Well, seems like it's a big deal on the social interweb because everybody's talking about it's a new decade, right? Everyone's legit losing their shit. 2020's here. Hashtag time to change my life. Hashtag we out here. Hey, you want to make a change? Let's do it right now. Like, if you're listening, stop prolonging next week, next month, or whenever this podcast comes out. If it's already 2020, I hope it's happening. I think this pod's dropping before then, but like, hey, just do it. Hey, just get started. Stop prolonging it. Just do the damn thing. Awesome. Glad we got that out of the way. Where was I 10 years ago, right? You're probably curious. I was 16. I was known as Bobby Burns because I had these thick sideburns that I thought I was so badass having in high school. I was just like, I thought I was such a hot shot. This is a funny story. My homie Dylan that I live with, I would go to his crib and he would literally line me up in his bathroom with a blade. And I was like, yo, bro, thanks, man. Freaking sick lineup. He'd line me up all around. Bobby Burns is ready to hit the streets. I was 16, driving a 1999 Ford Expedition. We out here. So that was me, Bobby Burns. But I'm going to be honest with you, though. Going into this new year, I feel incredibly great. Incredibly great. We got the new career. Shout out to Liv, Liquid IV. Great headspace to be in. Great opportunity. So excited for what we have going into the new year. Number 2, we are moving out of this crib, the content crib, to Content Crib 2.0. It's on another side of town. I'm going to be... It's Hawthorne, California. Hopefully you guys aren't freaking pulling out your binoculars looking for me. But going from the valley where we started out here in Sun Valley next to Burbank in California and LA to the opposite side about 30 miles south, which is still part of LA, which is crazy. But it's much closer to where I work. Right now I'm commuting 37 miles door to door to Liquid IV in El Segundo, and that's not ideal. So this is going to make my commute from an hour and 20 minutes home to 15 minutes at night. And so I'm excited. El Segundo area. I'm going to be in Hawthorne. Content Crib 2.0. Beautiful house. Great headspace for all of us. Still living there with Dylan Reese and Steve Mopsikoff. Dylan's an artist. Steve runs 5-Star Vintage. So if you need vintage clothes, plugged up. There you go. Go shopping. So it's a great part of town. We're going to be, 15 minutes, not even less than 5 miles from the beach, which is like what I dreamed of living out in LA. Like I want to be near the beach. And it's going to be a great reset. So that starts mid-January. And then now this podcast where I'm going to be able to share my voice with the world. So I'm excited. I think I really don't, I could not, I know for a fact, that's not even a thing. I could not be in a better position going into 2020. And I'm extremely grateful for it. 2019 has been an incredible year. One of the biggest goals I had going into this year, I had it written down on my notes app, just put out a little vlog about it. But my biggest goal this year was to find a way to make a living full-time off of creating while helping people tell their stories as well as brands. And that's literally what I'm doing for Liquid IV. A lot of it is still a big question mark. People are probably like, what do you even do? And you'll be seeing more of that in the coming months. But just imagine like Gary Vee has a team of people inside to document his story and the people around him. That's kind of what I'm doing for Liquid IV. Actually, it is what I'm doing with Liquid IV for Brandon Cohen and the people at Liquid IV. So know that in the coming months, you're going to start seeing a lot of content rolling out, and you're going to start to see the people behind the scenes of what makes Liquid IV such a great company and why. And just you're going to hear more about Brandon's story, which is incredibly inspiring from where he started to where he's at, building this business from the ground up, one stick at a time. He's somebody that I admire as a leader. Just seeing him work has been, I've been learning so much. So I know for a fact I could not be in a better position going into the new year, and I'm grateful for that. And truthfully, I hope it's a good time for anyone out there that's looking to make a change. If you need that refresh, if you need to like flip the chapter and changing the year, if that's the thing, then do it. Like make a list, just jot down things you want to change about yourself. I suggest you do it right now in this moment. I hope this comes out before the new year so you can get the ball rolling. But truthfully, it's just like, just aim high, write your goals down, adjust them along the way, revisit them. If you need motivation, keep rereading them. Read them in the beginning of the day, at night. I'm big on manifestation. If you see it, you believe it. You can make these things happen. So I am very excited for this coming new year. So I definitely see these podcasts are going to be similar to what I'm doing now, right? Like I sat down for a little bit, wrote out some notes, so there's this conversation flows. So I'm not just sitting here like, what do you guys want to talk about when nobody's actually here? And it's a different type of podcast because I'm used to just asking questions and doing research on the guests, but now this is going to be me like really structuring out, what do I want to talk about? What do I want to say? And I definitely think that the purpose of every episode, there's going to be some type of takeaway, right? Like there's always going to be a lesson learned. So much of this is going to be just me sharing my story or things that are happening in my life or lessons and just talking it through and hoping that people can learn from it. But I definitely see like each episode being, there's something that you have to take away from it. Like there's going to be entertainment. There's going to be me just being the bearded man, just, getting the beard looking cool. I don't know. Just run with me. So I think a great one to start off with for this podcast is this idea of just get started. So many times in our life, I don't want to say so many times. I think it's there's one time in your life that changes your perspective on just getting started, right? So, for example, when I was starting Purpose in the Youth, graduated college in May 2016, I had this idea to start a podcast. Pretty much worked on it on quotation marks because I wasn't like working on it every single day. I worked through the concept all summer. So you're talking June, July, and then end of August, I dropped it on the last day, August 31st. So 3 months to get this thing rolling, right? I had to figure out, the logo, the branding, what's the objective of the show, build a website, learn how to record, start booking guests. Like I had to really build this thing from the ground up. It was my first creative thing I've ever done. So there was a lot to learn. But through that process, the most important lesson, and I would always tell people along the way, what's the one thing you would tell yourself when you first get started would be just get started. Brandon Cohen says starting just what does he say? I wrote it down. Getting started is the momentum that you need, which is absolutely true. You just got to start, right? Like similarly with this podcast, I had this idea. I'm just like, screw it, run with it, roll the dice. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But there's so much that happens when you just start something and you learn along the way. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you have an idea and you just go start you just oh, hey, I sell t-shirts now. Well, what kind of t-shirts? What do you want? You got to think through certain things, but ultimately you have to start. You can try to build out this perfect blueprint. You can sit here and analyze and try to project of where you're going to go. And when this happens, you're going to do this. But so much starts to happen as you're going that you learn along the way. You start incorporating and you just adjust on the fly. And so that has been a huge takeaway. And I think a great way to start this podcast is I'm just getting started with this. I don't know where it's going. I have an idea of me sharing my voice. I want to bring guests on maybe sometime, but it's going to be very much different structure than the past one. The past one, Purpose in Youth is very structured. It's like the childhood, the high school, college years. It's really trying to paint that picture. This is going to be more so of just run. We're just going to run with it. We're just going to run and see where it goes and enjoy the ride of it. And so, yeah, I'm excited just to get this thing started. I think there's so much that can be learned along the way. And now I'm rambling because I see that my GoPro battery's flashing and I hope it doesn't die. Well, the good news, ladies and gentlemen, the GoPro didn't die, but to be sure that I didn't lose any high quality content, I paused, I charged up the battery. Now we're back and we got to make sure we finish before the camera dies again. Bobby, is this your first time making a video? It seems like it. So back to what we are all here for. Kind of going off what I was just talking about, though, one of the biggest realizations that I had in 2019 and why I'm treating this podcast moving forward and all the content I'm creating of just go with the flow, create when I can create, not worry about it. One of the biggest realizations I had was balance and how important that is. I think when you're starting off and you're trying to show the world exactly what you want to create or who you want to become, you're so head down on doing that thing over and over and just putting in the work, and you have to do it. You got to go head down because it allows you to get focused. It allows you to do, I always told people, I feel like what I was trying to do in 3 years, most people would take 5 years. Not because I'm better, not because I'm freaking cool. It was just more so I was just putting in the work every single day, whether it was creating, whether it was driving Uber to pay the bills, whether it was grabbing coffee to network. It was always just, will this get me one step forward to what I'm trying to do? And it always did. But I recognize the importance of balance. And so that's just kind of what I'm trying to do moving forward, is just keep that balance in mind. And when I feel like a lot of pressure or I'm not in the mood to do something, just don't do it and just go with the flow. So I'm excited for that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Cues from the BM community, questions from the Bearded Man community. I posted something on my Instagram yesterday saying I'm going to be doing a solo podcast. Little did people know it's a new podcast. And I pretty much just said, submit your questions. And so I pulled a couple from Instagram and Twitter. And so we're going to fire them up as we kind of get towards the end of this podcast. At Ben J Official, any productivity tips for crushing 2020? That's a great question. That's probably a topic that I'll be talking about in the coming episodes. Two big things for me is one, structure your day out as much as possible. Time management is key. Even with content, I think it's super important, or like creating, I should say, or anything. Actually, I don't want to say creating because I'm not just speaking to creators. I think it's anybody out there. You got to put deadlines and you got to put certain times of day where you know you got to be where you need to be. Like for me, I knew this morning at 9 a.m. I wanted to be sitting down with a cup of coffee and getting to work. So what did I do? I went to the gym this morning, got back, showered, and I told myself at 9 a.m. you're sitting down. There's nobody here to tell me that I can and can't do that. There's no boss saying, yo, Bobby, you got to make this solo podcast. I told myself that at 9 a.m. I want to be creating, and so that's what I did. So I think you got to build structure. You got to get really good with time management. Secondly, I think you need to take care of your body. I think that is the one thing that everybody could do that would literally change your productivity like that. I think you need to eat good, drink lots of water, exercise, rest, and sleep as much as you need to, because your body is your engine, your pyramid. If you don't treat it that way, how do you expect to operate at your highest potential and get a lot of shit done? So I think the two hacks, time management, treating your body right. And then I pulled this from Tyler Babin. He talked about this in his recent vlog. Shout out to my man, my bearded brother, fellow podcast guest. What's up? What's up, boy? I'm cooked. Anyway, he talks about focused sprinting, which is what I'm doing right now. My phone's on vibrate. I'm not looking at it. I'm not checking social media. My focused sprinting right now is just going all in on this podcast. And so do whatever you can. If it's 1 hour at a time, 30 minutes at a time, hour and a half, 2 hours at a time, just put down the phone, get yourself into a quiet environment, and just tell yourself, you got to do this. You got to get the work done. So I'm a big fan of the whole focus sprinting, and I definitely see myself making more of another podcast about productivity coming soon. Another question, at bstein00. What guests of the pod, Purpose in the Youth, were you genuinely nervous or starstruck? I'd say the number one in my career was Drama, just because it was like the guy that I had grown up watching on MTV. It was the person that really was inspiring me through the early days of the podcast. And so I wasn't necessarily like starstruck. It was more of just nervous in the sense of like, I want to make sure that this is something that when he leaves, he was happy to be a part of. I don't want to waste his time. I don't want to not look professional when this whole thing rolls out. Actually, I didn't want to look unprofessional from the point of contact, emailing him, to the day of to scheduling, to the day of the podcast, to the actual podcast itself, to everything. I just wanted to make sure that everything ran smoothly. So I never was starstruck meeting him. It was just like I couldn't believe it was happening. And so I composed myself well that day, I believe. At one point, the electricity went out, and that's when I realized, all right, you're good. I just adjusted. I acted on the fly. I felt like some greater power was testing me. And so we just made it work. But that was one of the biggest podcasts, one of the biggest days of my content career, without a doubt. So yeah, it was great. Let's see. Next question. Modest Vibes. How do you maintain the godlike beard? That is a great question. The true key is getting this baby cleaned up every 2 weeks, which I know most of you are probably like, this guy is out of his mind. Why are you doing that? It's kind of what I signed up for. You want to claim to be the world's favorite bearded man. You want to be Mr. Hotshot. You want to have It's the Bearded Man podcast. Well, you got to maintain it. So I have a barber who just maintenances it, makes it look great, makes me feel great. And so I continuously go back because, you gotta hold this standard. If you're gonna roll, have that beard life, you gotta make sure it looks good. Because there's some people, it's just all over the place. I'm like, come on, bro, that shit crazy, but come on, dude, maintenance that. So every 2 weeks I go to a barber and get it cleaned up. Next question, at C Knox H, aka Khan Daddy, my cousin. What's been the most challenging part of your new role and work responsibilities? That's a great question. I thought about this for a little bit, and I think the biggest challenge, which is not a bad challenge, it's just having to report to somebody, right? For the last couple of years, I've just been my own boss. I hold myself accountable. I have ideas, and I execute, and I do what I want to do. But when you're in an environment of, a job, you have to report to people and you have to get clearance on yes or no. And sometimes your ideas, I'm not saying my ideas haven't been brought to fruition, but it's just knowing that sometimes you have to make adjustments based on what other people want, which is totally cool. That's a pretty good challenge if that's my only challenge that I really see. The only other one was like maybe like working in a 9 to 5 environment where it's like you have to be somewhere, Monday through Friday, which I truthfully enjoy. I like having structure to my life, so that didn't bother me. But I think the smallest little challenge that I've had is just, reporting to people and kind of checking things off to make sure it's cleared by them before we keep moving on. Not a big deal, but that's maybe the only challenge that I have come across. Great question. At Patty Q UIGLEY. I don't want to butcher that. I'm sorry, brother. _1. How much did you fail in your early 20s? A great question. I think I failed all the time. Truthfully, I failed a lot in the sense of like what people think of failure and they think it's like you fall on your face and like you don't know what to do. It's like failing is really just you learning lessons along the way. So anytime I would learn a lesson or something just didn't work the way I thought it was going to go, or didn't get the views, I don't know. Anytime I would quote unquote fail in my 20s or in my early 20s, I just adjusted. I try not to think about it too much. I try not to beat myself up. I try not to take it personal. I just go, what's the lesson? How do I just move? What's the lesson? How do I just move? And you keep moving forward. So, a lot of my early 20s was me just trying this stuff. And really, I didn't even start creating until I was like 22. So like 20 to 22, I was in college, popping bottles, doing dumb shit, which I don't regret. But I didn't really quote unquote fail. It wasn't until I started creating when I was in my mid-20s, and from there to about 25, if we call that the mid-20s, early 20s, it was just me like learning lessons along the way. But one thing that I realized early on, there's no sense of me like beating myself up on things that happen. Just roll with the punches and adjust along the way. So don't be scared of failures. You just learn a lot, and it's not even a failure, to be honest with you. How did the job offer happen? That's a great question, great story, which I'm sure I'll get into more in other podcasts. But once again, I'll get into the job as we continue to move along with this podcast. The story of it, long story short, as I started this podcast talking about how I was putting the podcast on pause, and I was like 3 weeks out with content, and then at the same time, I started this new role with Liquid IV. So I pretty much, long story short, went home in September, had a lot of realizations, had a great conversation with Zach Conovar and his team, a past podcast guest. He manages Yes Theory, extremely savage businessman, great guy, great heart. And so I had a conversation with him that when I went about where I was going with my content and just trying to get off Uber, went home, spent 10 days with the family, was back for a wedding and a charity golf tournament, came back with this whole idea of like, I need to figure out what's the next step. First night home, I go out to Uber, or first time Ubering since I get back from vacation. I get back from driving, park my car, I post something on my Instagram. I say, whoever watches this, hold me accountable that going into 2020, I will be off the Uber streets. I need to find a new gig. I need to figure out what that next step is, but I know I'm not being utilized to my highest potential. And so Brandon ended up hitting me up. Was like, hey, man, can we hop on a phone call? Got on a phone call with him the next day, and pretty much was just running down this role of what he was looking to fill at Liquid IV. So the timing couldn't have been better. The fact that I posted it, maybe if I hadn't posted it, would he have ever seen that I was looking for something new? Serendipity, I don't know what, but essentially it was just me telling the world, like, I'm ready for the next change. And literally less than 12 hours later, I was on a phone call about an opportunity, or I was in communication about getting on a phone call. So crazy how that just kind of happened. And I didn't really get to talk about that in depth in the past pieces that I've made. But yeah, it was just me telling the world I'm ready to move on. And obviously, a couple years of like doing this content, it led up to me proving what I could do. And I think Brandon, was just somebody that was watching me from afar. He always showed love, and, maybe, I don't know, he just saw that I was looking for the next thing, and he kind of reached out and was just like, yo, I know you're super passionate about what you're doing now. Would you potentially like a role like this? And I was like, let's freaking do it, dude. I told him, I was like, yo, you haven't even sent me the final offer. Now I will send you a piece of paper with my signature saying I want the role. So it's worked out beautifully, and it keeps getting better and better, and we're just getting started with that. Next question. Fight Gray Fight. If you could go back 4 years, would you still have started as a podcaster? Absolutely. Because I'm a people's person. I love to talk. That's why I love doing podcasting. I don't have much time to overthink it, such as writing, like blogging. Talking is just so second nature to me, and a lot of the times podcasting is with people, and I love people. So if I had gone back 4 years, I definitely would have still started as a podcaster without a doubt. Manny Guzman, at Manny Guzman, next question. What words of advice would you offer to someone looking to start their own podcast? My man, exactly what this podcast is titled. Just get it started. Just start. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about where it's going. Don't worry about, oh, it doesn't sound great. Oh, we're shooting it in my basement. We're shooting it at my homie's crib. I'm shooting this in my bedroom. I've been running this show for 3.5 years out of my bedroom, the bedroom studio. Don't overthink it. Little baby steps every single day. Do the research. All your answers to start a podcast are online, but do it. So stop holding back. You clearly want to do it, so do it. And then last thing or comment was from at Caleb Brown. He said, keep it up. Appreciate you, brother. Just wanted to throw that in because I appreciate people supporting the Bearded Man content. So thank you. So in closing, as I clearly haven't even touched this water. I don't know if you guys ever had high quality water before, but make sure you get some ASAP. Closing. Really, really, really excited going into 2020. Truthfully, could not be in a better position. No doubt. There's literally no question about it. I have a great career opportunity, moving into a new content crib. That's going to be amazing. Great headspace. I'm going to be at the beach a lot, doing who knows what. This whole next chapter with like potentially podcasting, it's the Bearded Man, just seeing where this goes. The possibilities are endless, and I can't wait. I'm somebody that acts in the moment. Part of me was like, should I wait to start this podcast in 2020? Like, wait till I get to the new crib and start recording? I'm like, what? No. Let's get it going. Let's get the party started. What are you waiting for, dude? If you don't do it now, you're going to be sitting on your thumb all day anyway. So here we are. I'm excited. Very excited for 2020. I think it's a good next chapter, and I don't think I could be in a better position. I'm very curious to hear what you guys and gals think of this podcast, or at least what you thought of episode 1 today's of just getting started. Let me know. All feedback. Just hit me with the pros, the cons, what you didn't like. One thing is for sure, this is going to be a straight through podcast, kind of similar to what today's, I pretty much own everything that I ever say. So that's going to be how the shows ran. I don't see myself ever going back and cutting things out unless it's really personal, but I wouldn't say it if it was really personal because I'm a trained podcaster because I've been doing it for 3.5 years, dude. Big podcast guy right here. Why I say that, I don't know. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think of today's podcast. Seriously, if you can, share it out. Tell all your friends. Post on your Instagram story with a little caption saying, yo, check out the Bearded Man's podcast. Drop a comment there about what you liked about it, what you learned. We're trying to get this thing rolling. If you're true podcasting fan of the Bearded Man and you were listening to Purpose in the Youth, take the time, go onto the iTunes podcast app, rate and review. We got to build this from the ground up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that Purpose in the Youth is its own thing, so I'm going to leave it be as it's on pause. But now we're starting from the ground up. And so we got to build up the ratings. We got to build up the reviews. I mean, all that stuff is important. I don't really care because I'm still going to create, whether it's high reviews or not, or whether people are shitting on me or not. I'm still going to create. But I do recognize it builds credibility. It gets people to want to, give it a try if they don't know who the hell I am. So if you can, please do that. I think the big takeaway, like I was saying, is just getting started. As my man Brandon Cohen would say, starting is the momentum that you need. I hope that you guys and gals, whether it be anything in your life, if there's something in the back of your mind you've been really wanting to do, 2 things. 1, just start. And if you need a reason to, the new year's coming. 2020 is right here. Just start. Learn as you go. Enjoy the process of it. All the answers are on the internet. Google it. YouTube it. Enjoy that process. I'm telling you, it's fun. The longer it takes you to get to that big thing you want, the more time you have it to hone in on your craft to get better. And so don't care what other people think. Just go focus and do what you got to do. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Bearded Man Podcast. see you soon. B.O.B. signing off. See ya!